In this video, I'm going to walk you through a real client project that I've been working on for a while now. So I'm going to take you through the whole behind the scenes, all about the client relationship, how I manage the project, and then of course, in the second part of the video, we're going to dive into Figma, look at the designs, and discover how we came to the solutions that we did. Let's get started. Part 1, the client relationship and how the project works. So who is the client? Well, let's meet the product. This is Teachery. Teachery is an online course platform, so much like Skillshare and Teachable. As a teacher, you can create online courses and upload them to Teachery to sell on your own. This product already exists. There are already tons and tons of users using Teachery, so why was I hired? Well, the founders of Teachery always want to be improving the product, and so they hired me on an ongoing monthly basis to add features and solve problems in Teachery. I think this can be a really beneficial type of client engagement because for them, they have someone they can trust ongoing. Whenever problems come up, they can call on me to try to solve them. And for me, I get some steady work. So basically, we have a monthly bucket of hours that I have dedicated to them. If I go over those hours within a given month, then I'll charge them extra. But otherwise, I just charge them a monthly retainer. Next, let's talk about how I manage this project. Of course, it's just me, a freelance designer, so I have to be the one talking to the client, delivering the designs, and everything in between. So let's talk about what happens throughout that month on a given project. So the beginning of the month is when the client, one of the co-founders of Teachery, will send me a link to a Notion doc on Slack. I'll open up the doc and it looks something like this. It's essentially the problem that they're having or the feature that they want to add. As I'm alluding to here, sometimes it's a really simple feature that they want to add, like they want someone to be able to gift a course. This was something that they needed added designs for. Other times it's more of a problem or issue or something they want to improve where I have to come up with some more creative solutions. Either way, within that first week, I will look over this document, make any comments if I have questions, and just make sure I'm super clear on the ask. Then within the first half of the month, I will do the bulk of the design work. I'll do any kind of competitive analysis research I need to do. I'll dive into Teachery. I have an account myself, so I'm really familiar with the product. And I'll explore around, explore the problem more, and then start coming up with solutions in Figma. And we'll see some real examples of that later on in this video. Once I'm comfortable with what I have, then I'll present it to the client. But we don't do this face-to-face or even over Zoom. I use Loom to record my screen and a voiceover to walk through my solution, ask any questions, prompt them with some things that I'd like feedback on and things like that. Loom is a really, really helpful tool for freelancers, especially because I work a lot with folks who are outside of the US and in totally different time zones than me. On the 15th of the month, I will invoice the client. I've just made up an invoice that goes out on a recurring basis, and I'll go in there and describe the feature that we're working on each month for their records, just so that we have it. Once they watch that Loom video that I sent before, they'll come back with some comments. Usually they'll add these back to the Notion document, either by leaving comments or by adding a new section at the bottom and bullet pointing out some of their thoughts. Then they'll ping me in Slack so that I know that their feedback is finished, and I'll go in throughout the rest of the month and just do any little tweaking that I need to do. During this time before the end of the month where I will finally deliver the project, I'll also go in and figure out how it's best to hand this off. Now, handoff in this process is really, really simple because I'm working directly in their Figma file that their developer already has access to. So all I do is go through with the eye of the developer. If I were having to build this, what would I need to know? I'll make any notes in little digital stickers stickies on Figma of different interactions and how they should work. And if necessary, my client can always show the developer that Loom video and get them all caught up on what it's supposed to do. As you can see here in Notion, they have a lot of pages already. One of the co-founders is a designer, so she did an amazing job with the product at first. I'm just coming in as the second designer to upkeep the product, like I said, and add new features. So what I like to do for organization's sake is just add a little emoji of my face next to all of the pages that I'm working on. So when I go in, I'll start a brand new page, name it whatever the new feature is or the new problem that we're solving, and then put my emoji next to it so it's really easy for them to find. Okay, now let's walk through a few of these actual features that I've designed lately for Teachery. I know for me, when I'm learning, seeing real examples is the most helpful thing. So I'm going to try to get through quite a few of these pretty quickly. Let's dive in. Okay, let's start with the fun one, course hubs. We always start by defining the problem. In this case, Teachery wants to give their teachers the opportunity to group together like courses and also just have kind of a storefront maybe of all of their courses that is designed in a way that's custom to them. As it stands now, there's really no school as Teachable does it, or something like that that houses all of the courses that one teacher has created. This means that for a teacher to promote different courses, they really just share out separate links. They aren't really together living as a family. So let's look at a specific use case. Let's say there's a teacher who has 14 courses on the Teachery platform. 7 of them are design courses, and the other 7 are coding courses. So this teacher probably wants to have 2 separate hubs that house each one so they can order the courses in a way that makes sense to their audience, and their audience can actually see what they have to offer and choose their next class without getting distracted by others that aren't related. So that's exactly what I created. If we go on over to Figma, I'm going to break down this page for you guys. Here we have custom course hub and my little emoji. So let's dive into this. Here is what your custom course hubs could look like. So let's say, like the example I showed, you have 2 of them. You could give them each a different little heading, header and title, and they would each have their unique link. So that's what that would look like here. Maybe you want to create a new one. So you press this button here and you go over and you give it a name, click get started, and then if you're a teacher user, this will all look very familiar to you. The course editor is really what we used to create the hub editor so that it's not something new that Teachery's users have to learn. If they know how to create a course in Teachery, they know how to create a hub. So you'll see if you were a teacher, this would all look very familiar to you. You basically upload a banner, which would correspond to this banner here. Give it a title and add any courses that you want to add. So we also have this buy all courses button here, and that gives teachers an opportunity to create kind of a series and sell it all at once or bundle their courses all into one purchase. So you can add a course here. So let's say you clicked add a course, then you would be brought to this page here that actually shows every single one of your courses. So you can deselect and select them. This is what the selected state looks like here. And then you can add those courses to your hub, and this is what it would start to look like. We determined that having section headers was actually really important for this so that someone could have one hub of all their courses and just separate them into groups by topic instead of having 2 or 3 different hubs. It's totally up to how the teacher wants to do it. So you can see over here, we have build your hub. That's what we just did. That was the section where we add in all of our courses, and we can, of course, change around the order, configure these button links and all of that. And then we can go in and style our hub. So let's go over and see what that looks like. If we just keep going over. All right. This is how we can style our hub. So again, these controls are all very similar to Teachery's course editor. So you're basically just controlling all of the colors and text on this page. And it's super simple. You can see it update live over here. Now let's go back over here, and I'm going to go back a little bit deeper because of course you might be wondering why I have all of these screens here to show all of these interactions. So for example, this screen is something that will come up when you're reordering sections. So let's say that you're doing kind of a drag and drop, then this little window is going to pop up because you're sort of dragging this up further and you're being shown exactly where it's going to drop into, where sections are going to fall in line with each other. So while this is something that's a very, very small detail, it is something that needs its own screen, because in this moment when you are like clicking and holding on one of these sections, this is what you are going to see visually to make you understand what actions you can do. Let's also dive into these modals. So I created lots of different modals here just basically to show what they would look like in different scenarios. So this is something I do quite often. You can see this one's labeled set button links modal short title. This one's labeled set button links modal long title. And that is simply just to show the developer how this text should wrap. So it's not centered, it's left aligned. There shouldn't be an ellipsis so that you can't read what goes off the page. It should go on to the next line, left aligned, and you can actually read the whole title. So that was really important for me to show the developer because there are lots of options for what a title should do if it's longer than one line. And we made a very intentional decision that you should be able to read the whole title in this modal. So that is how we're showing to handle it. Another little example here of something that I've just designed to be super clear of how this should be built. Inside here, the hub settings, inside manage options, there are just a bunch of settings for your hub. And the one is that you can actually turn it off and on. So on is anyone with the link can access this hub. And so I also had to show what the off was. So I just kind of created a separate section down here and just to show what the off state looked like. Off, only you can preview this hub. And these types of things, thinking of the UX language, the writing, is really, really important to be clear to your users. So this is something where I'll take an initial stab at this. I'll go back and forth with the co-founders a bit to make sure that what I'm writing isn't too technical and is still within their brand voice. Especially with things like these notes. I never want to come across as a designer or a developer when I'm writing these. I want to come across as sort of a friendly brand voice while still getting across the point that is important for them to understand. And here, as you can see, just in case it's not clear to whoever is looking at these designs, I've just left a note of if this is off, then it will show the note, just to be really clear about what goes along with which state. All right, and lastly here, I have shown a preview of what this would look like live. So these are all screens showing what the teacher, the editor of this page will see, but it's also important to show what a student would see, what an audience member would see, or what a teacher would see when they press the preview button. So that is what you're seeing here. And the co-founder also came up with this even more beautiful design that they're sharing out in all of their marketing materials and emails just to really showcase this feature. So I absolutely love that because I didn't want to waste my time doing like real kind of visual design work. I spent all my time figuring out how this should actually function and of course how it looks visually, but Caroline really went the extra mile to show the audience what this feature really means, the possibilities that they could create with this new feature. Next up, the courses dashboard. So what was the problem we were solving for here? Well, as you can see, this is the original page the main courses page. This is where you're dropped when you come into Teachery, and it has lots and lots of features and sections on this page in a scrollable view. And the co-founders came to me and they were feeling like this was just a little bit cluttered and disjointed. You have to scroll to see everything that's offered on this page. And at a first glance, each section isn't really discernible from the other. So they tasked me with looking at all of this information and kind of trying to figure out how it should be organized better on their platform. So the very first thing that I noticed was that on this original page, what's currently live, there are things for teachers and learners. So I'll show you what I mean. Courses and themes. These are all courses and themes that you as a teacher have created. This is a section about your customers as a teacher, your analytics as a teacher. These are your purchase themes, and themes are something you can purchase kind of like templates to create a new course with. So this is also for teachers. But at the very end here, your purchased courses, these are things that are pieces of content for you to watch and learn from. So not only can you be a teacher on Teachery, you can, of course, purchase classes and watch them like a consumer, an audience member, a customer. And so, in my opinion, these didn't belong on the same page. So what I wanted to do was actually up in the main nav, I wanted to create two separate tabs, a Teach tab and a Learn tab. What would go in the Teach tab is courses and themes, customers, analytics, and purchase themes, because these are all things you would use when you're in teach mode, right? But over on the Learn tab, you should just find things that are pieces of content that you've purchased and want to consume and learn from. And they should be organized better. So actually in a separate feature, I tackled this, I tackled purchased courses and gave them actually a separate search and filter function. So that is exactly what you're seeing here. You can see all of your courses, which will be sorted by creator, or you can actually come here and filter by creator so that you're only seeing exactly what you want to see. So that is really the main change. And everything else that I designed for this feature really just trickled down. So all of the customer activity is on this tab here. And instead of having this broken out here, add customer to course next to just this little preview of customer activity, we're showing a whole page of customer activity, and this button will bring you to a modal where you can add a customer to a course. The other reason I felt that this solution was so much better is because when you're dropped on the Teach tab or you come there from a different tab, you can immediately see first top left thing on the screen is everything that you can do within this tab. You're going to be defaulted to courses and themes, but you can see right away, you don't have to scroll to see that in this section, you can also find your customer information, analytics, and purchase themes. Whereas over here, you have to scroll to see that those things are even available to you. If you're a new Teachery user, you might not even know that you have access to analytics. So relying on the scroll for you to know that that exists on the platform isn't quite as effective as this tab design. All right, if you're still with me, let's look at one more. This one is a little bit more technical and less visual, but I think it's a really good example of how you have to be a UX thinker to really work on these types of projects. And if that's something that you guys are interested in, this is the kind of practice that you should try to get. Just thinking like a user and designing based on that. Okay, so this feature is called Course Admins. The problem is that Teachery didn't currently have a way for an account holder or a Teachery teacher to add admins to their account. So let's use an example here. We all know that Flux has its courses on fluxacademy.com, but for a minute, let's pretend that they have their classes over on Teachery. If that were the case, then Ron would want to make each of us, the design coaches, an admin to his account so that we could post our own courses. So that is kind of what we're tackling here. And not only that, but as the design coaches would want to be able to switch back and forth between our personal accounts on Teachery and the Flux account. So we really need both of those perspectives covered when we're doing these designs. And that's exactly what I tried to do here. So let's first look at the course admin page, your course admins. So in our example before, this would be Ron logging on. He has no course admins right now, but he can go and add us by email address. So let's say that he's done that. And this is our various emails and various statuses. Maybe someone denied, maybe someone is already active, someone opened the invite but hasn't yet gone on and logged on and been active on the account. And maybe the fourth person, the invite has been sent, but they have not actually accepted it or opened it yet. So these are kind of all of the possible scenarios of someone who has been invited to be an admin. And so for those of us who the invite has actually been sent, then Ron can deactivate us or edit our permissions. And so what would it look like to edit our permissions? This is the modal that I came up with here. And each of these things requires a bit of explanation. So I've added this tooltip so that they can be super clear about what each of these things mean. And I also wanted to add the email up here so that it was really clear you remembered who exactly you were controlling the permissions of. Because I know that people get distracted when they're doing tasks. So maybe I left and came back and then forgot exactly what I was doing here. It's important to have this indicator. Of course, we had to come up with some modals here. These are you sure modals for someone who's being deactivated. And now where it starts to get technical is, what if you both have course admins and are a course admin for another account? So let's say that Ron is a course admin. He has added all of us. We are his admins, but he's also an admin to another account. Maybe he creates courses for a buddy of his and he needs to have access to their account. This is where you would see those. Switch to access another account, and basically, the email is kind of like the account title. So it denotes which account it is because there's always one primary owner of a Teachery account. Before you get to that point, you have to accept an invitation. So this is what it would look like for Ron to accept this invitation, or any of us as the guests and admins. So you would accept or deny here. And color was a very important piece to this whole design puzzle because we didn't want too many colors, all around the screen. But at the same time, you can't sacrifice UX for UI. So while I didn't know if I really loved the look of all these different colors here on the screen, I really thought that it was important that this piece stands out. And so since there's an action you have to take, you have to either accept or deny before moving forward, then I thought that it was important to call this out in green. Now to the section that you're going to see if you are an admin. So if I have no personal account at all and I'm just an admin on the Flux account, this is what I would see. Accounts shared with you, and I would see these different accounts with a check mark on the one that I'm on. So this banner is always going to appear here just to remind me where I am, because if I'm an admin of multiple accounts, I might forget which account I'm on, so this will denote that. And you can also switch to your personal account here if you do have one. So this is just to show you how many different screens are required because there are just so many use cases for complicated features like this. So if you kind of read the titles of my screens here, then you can see all these different use cases. Admin with no personal account, admin with a personal account, admin with no personal account when you're switching accounts, admin pending, accepted, and so on and so forth. There are even different notification bars based on what type of user this person is. So for example, always show this everywhere except for the course preview screens. Show version 1, this here, when a user has a personal Teachery account and is the admin of 2 or more other accounts. Show this version here when a user has a personal Teachery account and is the admin of only one account. Show this version here when the user does not have a personal Teachery account and is an admin of only one account. And show this last version when a user does not have a personal account, but is the admin of 2 or more other accounts. So if you kind of look closely, you can see why these are all necessary. But it is very confusing. It took me a while to wrap my head all around this, and it definitely took some back and forth. So just getting more eyes on a project, the better, because other people are going to catch things. And you also have to walk yourself through these scenarios as a user and really kind of take every avenue you possibly could. And then you're probably going to hit a wall and be like, oh wait, there's no screen for if I want to do this. You got to design that screen, and so on and so forth. So things like that are really, really important, especially for more complicated features like this. Okay, designers, I really hope you enjoyed seeing this in-depth behind-the-scenes look at this real client project. I always love seeing real examples because next to personal experience, seeing real examples from the real world is the best way to learn. If you guys have any questions about this specific project or how I work with clients, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'll be hanging out in the comments and I'd love to talk to you more there. Other than that, thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you back here for the next video. Bye!